Hi, it's Jeff Altman, the Big Game Hunter, and welcome to Career Coach Office Hours. It is Tuesday, June 28th. We are almost halfway through with the year. Can you believe it? I take time on Tuesdays and Fridays at 1 p.m. Eastern to talk with you about job search, hiring more effectively, management, leadership, dealing with different workplace issues, because everyone needs help. Everyone needs advice. And people hire me to provide no BS career advice for them, which could be around, as this show is, job search, hiring more effectively, management, leadership, a whole host of different things. So if you've got a question for me today, you can put it into chat and I'd be very happy to answer it as long as you get it in early enough. Otherwise, you can always message me through LinkedIn. My page there is linkedin.com/IN/the Big Game Hunter, and I'll cover it on the next show, which will be Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern. I'll also remind you, visit my website, thebiggamehunter.us, to schedule time for a free discovery call, a coaching session, to visit my blog, which has more than, I'm seeing it's having trouble streaming to LinkedIn, and they're going to try and get it resolved. So sorry if you were trying to get me on LinkedIn. Let's see if they get this resolved. So we're just going to try and do this. I apologize for the inconvenience. And I'll also mention my blog has more than 12,000 searchable posts. You can find out about my courses that you can rent or buy, my books and guides. There's just a lot there that can help you. Also, subscribe to JobSearchTV.com on YouTube. It's an app by the same name on Amazon. You can subscribe to No BS Job Search Advice Radio and Apple Podcasts, Spotify, where it's a video podcast, Amazon Music, Google Play, almost anywhere that you listen to podcasts. So there's just a lot of great information I make available. And again, I'll just remind you, if you've got a question about job search, hiring more effectively, management, leadership, or some workplace related issue, just put it into chat. I'll be very happy to answer your question. Okay. Now, with that, let's go to our first question, which I thought was hysterical. Is being a recruiter a good profession that's stable? Is it a good job? Is it easy? Just put the actual question there. And the answer is it's not easy. It is erratic at times. Stable? No. You're contingent upon your ability to find people to fill jobs and having a client that's willing to pay you. Is it easy? Absolutely not. You're dealing with people. People, shall we say, under pressure, who at times will misrepresent themselves to you and what they're capable of. I'll also mention, and I'm going to say this a little tongue-in-cheek, I did recruiting for more than 40 years and filled more than 1,200 full-time positions, plus consulting assignments during my career. And as a result, I learned the 3 jokes of the recruiting business. Joke number 1, how can you tell an applicant is lying to you? Answer, their lips are moving. How can you tell one of your institutional customers is lying to you? Answer, their lips are moving. And the third one is, how can you tell a third-party recruiter is lying to you? Yes, their lips are moving, because everyone postures for advantage in the relationship between the 3 parties. The good recruiters are the ones who are just the messengers of the exaggerations that the parties engage in with one another. So I'll just simply say it is not an easy field. And if you're slumping, if you're not filling jobs, you'll get fired. That could happen in 1 week. It could happen in 2 months, 2 years. They don't care about your past. They just care about your results now. So no, it is not an easy field. I think it was a great profession. I worked in it for a long time. I was very successful. But when I'm seeing a question like this, they're not looking for the amount of effort that I put in to be successful. They're looking for this as like an easy job that they can kind of coast their way through. It isn't one of those. With that, let's go to the next question. How can we hire people without giving a salary, but only a vision of success? Hiring inexpensive junior people who will do anything. The veteran people won't do this. They want to get paid, and they deserve to get paid. They've spent years developing expertise, and you think you can hypnotize them into doing something and working for very little or free. No, they've got bills to pay. Kids, on the other hand, you have a shot with. And sometimes you can mesmerize them with your story, talk about your vision, not pay them a heck of a lot because they still live with mom and dad. And mom and dad are going to foot the bill. So that's really your only chance. Very experienced, very talented people. You got to pay for it. So how can you do it? Man, you're not. You're not going to do it for the very experienced, talented people. It's just that simple. How effective are software engineering interviews in determining how good the candidate will turn out to be? I love this question because, well, let's work with that premise I gave earlier about everyone posturing for advantage with one another. And thus, they're exaggerating, you're exaggerating, and thus, too often, people are hired for jobs that they're not capable of performing. You think you can evaluate for fit, you can't. You think you can, but you really can't. As a result, too many people get hired and leave within a few months because you've misrepresented a job to them. You've misrepresented not just what they're going to be doing, but the institutional friction that exists that prevents them from being effective. And conversely, you're frustrated with them because they're kind of tuned out. They've given up and they're starting to look elsewhere, and you sense it, but there's not a lot that you can do about it at that point. So how effective are these software engineering interviews in determining how successful the new hire will be? It depends. It depends upon whether you standardize your interviewing in such a way as that you're able to, shall we say, avoid some of the biases that show up in the process. The biases such as, she's just like me. She went to the same school. I'm just using some simple examples. Or he's just like me. He went to this, he's worked at such and such firm. I did too. But they were the bad person in the department and you were the excellent one. So how effective is it? You've got to standardize your process in order to ensure that you're really evaluating and assessing people for their capabilities vis-a-vis the position and its requirements, the position you have available. Most of you don't do that. You kind of walk over to someone and say, talk with them for a minute. I'm interviewing them now for a job. See what you think. Tell me what you think. And that's not a way to interview. That's the lazy way, and that's why you make mistakes. So I'll just simply say, most of the time, because people don't know what they're doing, their interviews are not good, and they get those results that they deserve. Bad results, bad outcomes, bad hires, too much turnover, stuff like that. So let me start off by encouraging you, be honest with the people that you talk to, the people that you interview. Because when they join and they find out that you lied to them, you lose them. Not just simply their bodies, but emotionally you lose them. They're tuned out to you. They know they can't trust you. And you want to trust them when you hire, they want to trust you when they join. And if you start off by having conned them into a job, having lied to them to persuade them to join, not good. So the next question is making an extra effort to recruit BIPOC or LGBTQ plus people, especially if you need to, an example of tokenism? No, no. It's an example of hiring to ensure diversity in the culture. Tokenism is hiring to ensure diversity in the culture, but never listening to their advice or acting on it. Thus, they learn pretty quickly that they are seen as unimportant and their opinions don't matter. As a result, you lose them, you lose their best efforts because the fact of the matter is you've made it clear to them that they don't matter to you. That's simple. They don't matter because if they matter, you listen to them. So start off with figuring out how to connect, involve, listen, act on what people who are LGBTQ plus or BIPOC, what their opinions are, just like you do the ones who are not. Have people disagree with one another, encourage it, explain why you make certain choices, and no, it's not an example of tokenism. Like I said, not listening to or acting on the advice or the opinions that you hear that and thinking that people are going to be happy, that's tokenism. Okay? We've got more, and I'm just going to remind you, if you've got a question, put it into chat. I'd be very happy to answer it for you. Okay. Is it risky to accept a great software engineering job offer in a top tech company if you think you're a mediocre programmer? No, because that could be a case of stinking thinking or imposter syndrome talking for you, where you don't believe that you're capable, but this firm does. And that's true of any organization. You're sitting there going, oh, I'm not any good. I'm not capable. Everyone's better than me. And they disagree with that assessment. They believe that you're quite capable and they want to hire you. Are you qualified to do that job? Are you interested in doing that job? Are you available to do the job? If so, why not do it if they're paying you enough to do it? So, is it risky to accept a software engineering job at a top firm if you think you're mediocre? No, because the idea is they don't think you're mediocre, do they? They wouldn't have made you an offer if they thought you were mediocre. Okay, we've got more. How do you choose an executive coach? Great question. I think you choose an executive coach pretty simply. You choose them because you relate to them. You choose them because you don't relate to them. They coach you as a human being. And in becoming a better human being, you become a better executive. Do you connect with them or not? Do you have a referral to them or not? Not doesn't mean you shouldn't hire them, because there are all these other factors that come into play that makes it possible for them to be a great coach. Do a conversation with them, see if you can relate. And again, share one of my experiences with mentoring. Early in my career with a nonprofit, I sought out a mentor, in effect, someone to coach me during a time I was developing in this nonprofit. And there was one man in particular I thought of reaching out to, but I decided not to. And I went to someone who was the polar opposite of me and this other man. And I learned so much from him. It was such a great learning experience for me for many years as he coached me in many, many situations and helped me grow and develop. So uh, I'll just simply say, how do you choose one? Well, again, price and who's paying for it is a factor. Because if you're paying for it and you can't afford them, well, that doesn't mean you shouldn't hire them. Maybe you'll figure out a way to pay for it uh, and get the worth that you need from this person. So again, there's so many factors, but I when I talk about how companies hire, I talk about how competence is only one thing that they look for. Self-confidence, character, chemistry, charisma. Charisma is always a terrific attribute for a coach to have, and that they care and it shows, and you know you trust them. Ultimately, it comes down to trust. If you don't trust, don't hire them. Okay. I did an interview for a job, but a couple of hours after the interview, the recruiter asked me if I get hired, when can I start? Does that mean something good? Usually, but not necessarily. Usually, because if they're getting to the point of asking you about potential start date, they're interested in you joining it. That makes sense. But sometimes they're trying to avoid someone who's going to surprise them by saying, I'd love to join. I'd say yes to an offer, but, and then you hear about the vacation that they have planned in Asia. They're going to be away for 2 months and all sorts of other nonsense that makes it impossible for them to join in a timely way for you. So I'll just simply say, what does it mean? Is that a good sign? Normally, but it's not guaranteed. Okay. I like this question. In the era of psychologically disagreeable bosses or managers coming to an end, does it mean the old way is coming to an end? Will the new way be bosses and managers leading through time-tested group psychology techniques that are less distressing to employees? I think you're being remarkably optimistic here. There are some managers, there are some leaders who are more enlightened than others. Does that mean your manager, your leader is one of those people? You know better than I as to whether that's true or not, but they may not be. As a result, you may be joining an organization where, shall we say, your manager is disagreeable. They push people, they bully, who knows? But you have to look for these qualities. And as you talk with people, by the way, the one phrase I really objected to is psychologically disagreeable bosses or managers. Primarily because I don't know your capability to determine whether or not someone is psychologically distressing or a distressed manager or boss. What makes them that way? Is it that they bully people to do their job? That's one benchmark for it. It doesn't mean that everyone in that organization is different. You work for one person, maybe two or three, and they may be different than other ones. Feel comfortable. If you don't feel comfortable, don't do it. It's really that simple. Next question is it a good idea to say that the current job is not doing well financially to an interviewer, and that is why you want to leave? So the answer is it's not ideal. The only time it works is if this is a company whose name is in the press and people know that they're having a hard time. So, for example, you read something about a particular firm, other people read about it, it's on the TV news, and you say, you probably have heard that my firm is in a distressed state right now. And I would expect from what we're seeing, there are going to be job cuts coming down pretty soon. That's one level of things. Another thing is revealing something confidential that says, we're having problems and I don't want to stay here until the door is shut. Ooh. So there are lots of different ways to evaluate for whether this is a troubled company. Always look for signals online. And in terms of what you tell HR, you can always say, you may or may not have seen that my firm isn't doing particularly well. And one of the things you might look for, say that you're looking for, is a more stable environment where you can learn, grow, and get ahead. And that's going to have you stand out from your competition all the time. Let's go to the next one. How do good leaders identify gifts in people? So the answer is you listen and observe. You listen to what they say and don't say. You observe what they do and don't do. You notice how they are superior to the other people in the group. It makes a difference. As a result, taking the time to notice someone's excellence is an important way to determine whether or not you want to hire them. Okay. Is management by walking around the best kind of management? I'm going to give you a wonderful answer I love to give from time to time. And the answer is, I don't know. I think management by walking around is known to be an excellent process for identifying and hiring talent. As a result, what you find is that walking around and noticing how people are doing great work works for you. So is it best? I don't think so. Are there better? I'm sure there are. And thus, what you want to be doing is noticing people, complimenting them, encouraging them, inspiring them to being their best. I'm going to pause for today and just simply say, I hope you found these questions and answers helpful. I'm Jeff Altman, the Big Game Hunter. Visit my website, thebiggamehunter.us. There's a ton in the blog to help you. Plus, you can schedule time for a free discovery call or schedule time for coaching so I can help you. Also, connect with me on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/IN/the Big Game Hunter. Have a terrific day and be great.